This podcast episode is dedicated to empowering sensitive people to recognize their trait as sensory intelligence
and bring their unique gifts into service for the crucial roles we play in communities, businesses, and leadership globally. I'm Julie Bieland, sensitivity expert, psychotherapist, and founder of the online sensitive empowerment community.
I'm Willow McIntosh, founder of Illuminance and leader of the High Sensory Intelligence Movement. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, Willow.
Hi, Julie. How are you doing?
Doing okay, and I'm excited about the topic that you picked today.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, very excited. Today, this week, welcome everyone. So good to have you all with us. We are going to be talking about self-love, and the angle of self-love that we are looking at today is around living from the heart. And we've touched a little bit on this previously in other episodes. And actually what we're really focusing on this week is the choice that we have to connect with our inner resource of peace and joy and strength, which is a very different place from being in a place of anxiety and a place of over-processing and having to kind of almost that sensation that because we're sensitive, the world is against us and we have to prove something, or at least we have to struggle on a day-to-day basis just to get by. And I really want to kind of address that this week and actually invite us to recognize this incredibly powerful resource that we have within us, which is a place of peace and joy and strength, and it is accessed through the heart consciousness rather than the head consciousness.
Such an important topic, I think, especially for highly sensitive people. It's like, I think many of us started from a place of lower self-love. I think that I know if I even think about for myself, my own self-love used to be quite terrible because I think I grew up feeling like there was something wrong with me for being so sensitive. And I often got asked, why are you so sensitive? Why are you reacting that way? What's wrong with you? And there was a sense that there was something wrong with me. And it took me a lot of years of work to work on that part of myself. And what a huge difference it is to live in a space when you can develop self-love. I mean, it helps with everything.
Wow, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I had a very, very similar experience to that when I was growing up too. You know, I was constantly being asked, why are you so sensitive? Why do you take things so personally? I couldn't handle criticism in any way. I felt so delicate and like an egg that I was going to crack at any point. And as a result, you know, my self-love was so low because my self-opinion was low. So I thought that for some reason I had been born with some kind of inability or something that was wrong with me. And I was totally out of touch with the real me. And I think it is unfortunately, it is a common experience that we have as HSPs, is where, you know, there has been a misinterpretation of the trait when we were younger. And unfortunately, sometimes it does lead to us having a misguided view of who we really are. And, you know, this place of this misperception of ourselves, it isn't true. It's not real. And that's the shift that's so important to make, is rather than trying to constantly defend against trying to prove ourselves, or trying to be right and trying to perhaps make people wrong about the way they see us, there's a different route. And the route is for us to truly own who we know we are from a place of knowing. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but there is this place of knowing within all of us, and it is accessible through ourselves for all of us.
Yes, and we have a unique perspective because both of us not only have we worked on this piece within ourselves, but we've also guided a lot of people through this process. And I think that in itself is like, you start to recognize how much it changes. I mean, it changes it certainly changed my life. And when I witness clients or students really developing this piece as well, it's like, oh, it's just such a, you just live in such a different space. And like you were saying about criticism being so hard, I mean, I had the same experience. And I think, in fact, a lot of people in this population, criticism feels so hard because we try so hard and we want to get it right. We want to help people. We want to do the right things. And if somebody has a piece of criticism, it's like it can really knock us over in a really strong way if we're not holding a container of self-love to sort of coat that criticism, coat the pain. And sometimes I even see self-love as like a protective armor as a sensitive person, because without it, it's like walking around and just so raw and exposed. Because if somebody says something that is that is unkind or is criticism, it's like we take it as real because we don't have that protection of self-love. And self-love is a protection, because if you have it, you can do more of that pause, reflect, and respond rather than reaction.
I love that. Pause, reflect, and respond. That's a really that's really helpful. That's a great reference point. And this piece around criticism. I mean, I'm still very sensitive to criticism. I think I always will be. I think it's just a part of who I am, and actually I'm quite interested in what that is in me. And in some ways, when I feel angry about something, or I feel that I haven't been understood, or or criticism that kind of knocks me over, I've realized actually inside it's because I care enormously deeply about things. I care very much about the relationship with myself. I care very much around wanting to do my best and be the best that I can in the world. And I feel very strongly about, sort of very strongly about how other people are perceived by me. There's a great deal of caring that's happening. And the point that I'm coming to is, if something knocks me over and I feel overly sensitive about something, I've learned to develop this choice that's within me. And I love what you said there about the pausing and reflecting, because that's a very much a technique I use as well. But what I'm learning to do on a day-to-day basis, even sometimes if I'm really tired and perhaps I've been knocked over a few times because I've been working too hard and I'm having a few days of struggle, in the morning sometimes I'll wake up and I'll say, okay, just for the next hour, I'm not going to entertain a negative thought. I'm only going to think positively. And I might put a bit of music on or play something silly. And I know I've got loads to think about. And it's almost, sometimes it's like this battleground of negativity that's trying to get into my system. And as soon as I just let go of the battle and let go of the resistance and just choose to think positive thoughts and just choose to create my own sphere of love within me, it changes my mood. And I find that the next hour is much easier to stay positive. The next hour, my energy returns. And then I can start to address perhaps some of the things I need to process. But it's that conscious choice of not feeding what's gone wrong, or not feeding the conversation in my head that led to me feeling criticized. It's a moment-to-moment choice that as I maintain this sphere of positivity, or this sphere of self-love, it has such a powerful knock-on effect that it just lifts me.
I love that. And I love what you're saying. It's a moment-to-moment choice. And that it is. And I think a lot of people have a misconception, and I used to too, that it's like, somehow you're not fully empowered or enlightened unless you don't experience any of these things anymore. and that's actually not accurate, because everybody experiences these things. But what you're saying is, you recognize it, you acknowledge it, and then you make a conscious choice in that moment to direct your thoughts into something positive. And it's that moment-to-moment choice. I love that.
Yeah, exactly that. Absolutely. And there's factors that indicate, because I very much remember there was a period of my life when I really was at the mercy of other people's opinions of me. And actually what that was is I was at the mercy of my own opinion of myself based in a false version of myself.
Oh, that's so good. You should re-say that. That's really good.
So I'll try. Maybe I'll say it again in a different way. So what I can remember, there was a distinct part of my life, and I can look back at it, where I was at the mercy of what everyone thought of me. And actually what was happening was so there was this constant internal battle going on with my thoughts. And what I realized was that I was at the mercy of my own perception of myself from a false point of view. So that version of myself that I was trying to act from, that wasn't me. So on a constant basis, I was trying to feed this version of myself that didn't exist. It was created by a sequence of events. It was created by what, earlier conditioning. And so once the shift for me that happened was deep down within me, I always knew who I really was, but it was quiet. It was almost dormant in me. It wasn't something that I would call upon. It would come to me when I was sitting on a sunset. It would come to me when I was having a great conversation with a very close friend. It would come to me in moments of empowerment. And that sensation for me was never in my head. It was never like a kind of a conversation in my head. It was a deep, energetic feeling beneath me, within me, around me. It was a very different experience to this false version of myself. And we all have this. So we all, deep down, we really know who we are. Like if we came face to face with the creator of all things, suddenly he just walked into the room, or however that might happen, perhaps an angel come down and said, "Who are you really?" And we were kind of literally put on the spot. We would all have an answer to that question if we really were asked. And so this energetic reference, this kind of soul reference, is always in us, it's always there. And so this moment-to-moment choice that we have is around learning and practicing on a continuous basis to tune into this energetic reality of who we are. It's learning to continuously strengthen that muscle. When we do get knocked over by criticism, we ask ourselves, what do I really think about that? And we have a thought that's going through our heads that's really tripping us and torturing us. It's like, is that thought really mine? And so it's a constant questioning of these parts of ourselves that aren't real. And they don't go away. What happens is we integrate them. So I've learned to integrate these thoughts. I've learned to kind of accept and just absorb the habit pattern I have sometimes of being really mean to myself. And I just allow it to kind of filter and come in. But I'm constantly choosing to look for and feel that energetic reference point of who I know that I really am.
I like that. You're spending time, and it's a process, isn't it? It's a process to build and strengthen that muscle, to keep on doing it and kind of keep chipping away at it a little bit at a time. And I like how you were saying that you were connecting to that real part of yourself in kind of quiet moments. And I think if we're intentionally connecting to that part of ourselves and getting to know that, that's going to help so much. And even spending time, like what I do is, I notice I'm like at the very highest level of sensitivity. So all of what you were saying was my experience too, like being at the mercy of other people's opinions of me. And I didn't even know who I was. There was like a moment in time years ago that I just remember thinking, like, I don't even know who I am. Like I've been so focused on having this mask on that I think that people want me to be this person or say this or keep this smile and not really show who I was. And that never works long term. There's something that just, that real part of us just cries to come out. Like it needs to rise, and it needs to be looked at and explored and spend time getting to know it. And I know for myself, like if I experience criticism or something goes wrong, it's like I can just feel this jolt inside of me, and I take that as a moment to go, okay, let me pause for a second. What's going on? Like, what am I feeling right now? Where's this coming from? And let me understand it. And if I do this with like, doses of self-love, I have an opening to explore that. And if I do it with judgment and being harsh with myself, I don't have that opening to explore that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, see that. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So something really just came into my mind. It was actually because I can remember being in a very, very similar place where in that place of not knowing who I was, and being in this place of kind of being blown around and at the mercy of what other people would think of me. But what's interesting was when something was said about me that I didn't like, or somebody criticized me, or someone said something mean to me, part of the reason that I would react so strongly was because I knew it wasn't true.
Mm.
And part of the reason that I would get so angry about feeling lost and not knowing who I was because there is such a calling within all of us to be in alignment with why we're here. And I think especially as HSPs as well is, we need this relationship with meaning within us. We've got to know, we've got to sort of be in attunement with why we're here, what we're supposed to be doing, and how we can be of best service to the world. And I think for us, when we're out of alignment with that and we're being blown around, it's very, very, it's an awful place for us to be. And so I think the path into that, it is about, and I love what you said there about being in a space of non-judgment and just trying to pause and reflect and get that clarity. But the thing is at some point we're going to have to cross the threshold, and we're going to have to start taking steps towards acting and living in alignment with who we know we are, or what it is we're supposed to be doing here. Because otherwise, even if we don't know what that is at this stage, it's just about taking baby steps and at least trying to, even if we're volunteering or we're just following the footsteps of other people that we aspire to, I think gradually we start to carve a path of meaning where it starts to make sense and we start to learn who we really are. And then we begin to access this reservoir of resource within us.
I like that. Carve a path of meaning and access this reservoir of resources. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That is so good and very true. And I think that this particular population, we really need meaning. And it's very important for us. And I think that it's interesting when you think about that too. Like if we are taking steps on a path towards meaning, I think that we naturally connect to our deeper selves within that path. Don't you think so?
Yes, I do. I really do. I think, connecting with that path of meaning, it's so important, and it can be super simple. One of the moments where I feel so connected and everything means so much for me is actually when I'm walking with the sunshine in the afternoon or early morning, and I'm kind of immersed in nature, and I just feel this great sense of joy and connection with everything, and I just want to hug life. I just feel this incredible beauty all around me. And actually, when I'm in that state, that's when I am the most useful and beneficial to people, when I'm training, when I'm facilitating, and when I'm speaking. It's a very, very simple place for me. It's not about me kind of going off and creating these massive, or trying to create some kind of really complicated purpose and meaning. Actually, for me, it's just about connecting with this truth in my heart. And right there, that's full of meaning for me. That I'm reflecting the kind of the love and the meaning of the world, of nature. And it's coming through my heart, and in the words that I say and kind of videos that I make and the things that I write, it's in there. And that magic translates and helps people. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be what our heart really loves to do. And then just trusting that as we walk in alignment with that, things will unfold for us and it will become more clear.
Yeah, and then spending more time doing it, because I find it amazing what comes up for me when I spend enough time in nature, like when it's enough for me, not what everybody else says to do, but when it's enough for me. And I know that I reach that moment when it's like there's this sort of magical moment internally where it's like you just kind of connect to this internal deep part within you, and that heart, maybe like you were saying, the heart consciousness within you, that everything's okay in that space. And it's interesting because I can always tell when I'm working with somebody how much time they've spent in nature and how much time they have not spent in nature. It has a lot to do with this connected piece. And when somebody actually starts intentionally doing that, making those choices to spend more time in nature, whatever that is for you, there is something so beautiful and magical that comes out of that, and every single person feels it. And that's what's amazing. I've never had somebody come back and say, you know what, I spent a day in nature and I didn't feel anything. I've never, ever heard that. Have you?
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think it is. I think it's almost like when we're walking. For me, if if I'm busy and I'm doing a lot of head stuff, when I go outside in nature and I walk, the energy starts to trickle down. So I can always feel it coming down through my neck and into my body, and my head goes quieter, and I start to feel myself again as I'm walking further and further. And I notice the birds, and then the smells, and the trees, and the wind, and it kind of like. And then all of a sudden, I've moved my conscious awareness from the busy head state into my heart. It's like, it feels almost like our hearts naturally know how to connect with nature. Like our heads don't really do that. It's a heart piece. It's an awareness of the beauty and the flow of things in nature. And it's a way in. It's a simple choice to drop down. And if our heads are full of this hectic negativity, and we're really being mean to ourselves, then making that conscious choice on a day-to-day basis to access our hearts, it's possible. We can do it. We can make the decision. It doesn't need to be complicated. And maybe that will lead into a creative piece that we might do each day. It might lead us to write. It might lead us to sew or to knit or to paint or whatever it may do. And more that we're doing that, the more we're letting go of this false version of ourselves that just isn't real.
Yes, I like how you said it's a way in. It is a way in, and that's a great first step, and it does lead to all of that. It leads to the opening of those creative centers in the brain again. And I think so many of us as HSPs are often in a head space. I am too. I think it's just it's kind of who we are, our brain processing constantly. And to really make choices like that, to connect to nature, to connect to that heart space within us, it changes everything. And I know, like in my community right now, we're doing a gratitude. Everybody is writing like 5 things they're grateful for every day. And a lot of times the things that we're writing that we're grateful for has to do with nature. Like I write, oh, the birds are singing so loud right now. And it's such a beautiful moment to focus on that. And I was thinking about how whatever we're choosing to focus on in those moments, we're okay in those moments, considering what's going on in the world right now. And it's like, if I'm having a hard moment, but in that moment, start to focus on the birds or the beautiful trees outside or something in nature, I suddenly feel this wave of calm come over me.
Amazing. Yeah, me too. Me too. And it really is as simple as that. I think as a way into, to our hearts and our our heart consciousness. Because I think because we're processing so deeply, it's a biological part of the apparatus of having the trait of sensory processing sensitivity, that we're just processing data more deeply. And so, getting stuck in our heads for us, well, that's just a part of it, because we're processing. So that's a head thing. However, there is this, where it gets tricky for us is when we turn that ability to process more deeply in on ourselves, when we start to process our own self from a viewpoint of negativity. That is a recipe for disaster. And I think as soon as we feel that happening, that's when we choose to think, okay, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm either going to sit and I'm going to meditate, or if I can't get away from everyone, I'm just going to go and sit in the loo, and I'm going to concentrate with the feeling of my feet on the ground. I'm just going to allow my consciousness to fall down into my heart. It's a choice right now. It's like, okay, I can feel that I'm being mean to myself. I'm overthinking that conversation. It's like, okay, I'm going to choose. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to, on a moment-to-moment basis, I'm gonna, or even just for today, not gonna, continue these thoughts of going round and around. And I love the fact, your community is such an important resource for HSPs, Julie, because the more that we can be around each other and the more that we can support each other, that helps us to feel safe about being in our heart space, the more that we can learn to tune in and share that, and for people to see us coming from our heart space, to make sure that we're being seen by the right people. So we're learning from the reflection of the outside world that it's safe for us to be in our heart space. And then the more we get used to it, the stronger it gets, until eventually, it doesn't matter who sees it.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautifully said. I completely agree with you. It's amazing to surround yourself in a safe community. It's like when I go and look on social media now, it feels so loud and chaotic after being in my community, and there's so much. It doesn't feel that sense of safety, and when we're like on social media, because there's just too much happening, and there's a lot of things that are out of control, and the container is not, it's not possible to hold such a safe container in general on social media. Kind of being able to do it in a separate community is so powerful. And I wanted to go back to what you were saying too, about kind of taking this pause to connect to what you're feeling. I often call it an icky feeling. It's like if you notice that you get this icky feeling inside of you and just something's not quite right and you're not even sure what it is, if you could just take that pause, spend some time in nature to reconnect, and then try without judgment to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What is that? Where's this coming from? But in a really loving tone. And it reminds me, and I often joke, but this is kind of true, that if we're not paying attention to our inner child, they're going to tantrum. And just like a child tantrums when their needs are not met, the inner child tantrums too. And it's such a beautiful experience to witness someone developing that internal self-love and taking care of that inner child and being loving and kind to ourselves, because this population of HSPs is so loving and kind to everyone else. So bring that love and kindness that you share so freely with others into your own experience, right?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, and that kind of that sort of basic kind of loving, caring part of our nature, that is the truth of who we are. And and you're absolutely right. It's nurturing that inner child of us that loves to be in that place. And sometimes, things go wrong and we have to kind of process and we have to understand why we're feeling a particular way. But essentially, we're always that part of ourselves that is in joy and is in connection. It is always accessible. And the fact that we are highly empathic and, we tend to be light workers and we tend to be very understanding, very kind people, that doesn't mean that we're weak. It doesn't mean that people should take advantage of that. It doesn't mean that we should be helping everyone around us to the detriment of ourselves. It actually means that we have a resource of powerful love and connection. And that can be a very grounded place of strength. And it means that we're not taking responsibility for other people's problems and issues. We're not overdoing it. We're making sure that, yes, we're coming from a place of joy and connection, but it is a place of boundaries. We have an ability to say no. We have an ability to say no for our own benefit, so we can find a way to continue to come back to this place of connection and self-love. Because at the end of the day, if we're not in our own place of centered self-love and connection, we're not going to be any use to the people around us.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to get knocked down by the waves over and over again if we don't have those kinds of healthy boundaries and keep our own raft strong before assisting everybody else. And I love what you said, and I'm going to repeat that because I think it's so beautiful. And I totally agree with you that as HSPs, the essence of who you are is having a loving, caring nature. That's the essence, right, of who you are as an HSP. And now we just have to make sure that we're giving that loving, caring nature back into our own selves, our own heart, our inner child, supporting and caring for ourselves when we need it the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said. It really is. And it's perfectly possible for us. And yeah, I think, to bring this week's episode to a close, it really is the invitation to recognize that inner nature, that heart connection, that consciousness of place of connection of our own loving selves, of our inner child, and recognizing that is a place of power. It is a place of joyful connection, not a power that's kind of, conflicting in any way, but it's actually it's a grounded place of connection. It's a foundation for us to move and to work from. And that, it's making sure that we're doing all that we can to build that and to maintain it, even if at the moment it feels like it's a very weak and unstable place. It's knowing that it's just a matter of practicing. It is getting out into nature. It's taking time to ground. It's allowing us to just build that muscle of joyful, heartfelt connection. And I think it's certainly worked for me over the years. It's certainly worked for the people that I work with. And I know you could probably say the same, Julie, for the people that you work with too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like bringing in light and love into your own heart allows you to spread more love and light.
Yeah, exactly that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a joyful process, and finding the joy within us, finding the authentic joy within us it's possible. It's right there, and it's accessible on a moment-to-moment basis if we allow it and let go of this addiction that we sometimes have to this false version of ourselves that has just been made up by other people, or
Yeah,
made up by ourselves, in response to what we think is going on around us.
absolutely. And you know what excites me, Willow, is thinking about if someone's listening to this right now, you are already taking those steps. And that excites me because it is practice. It's practice. It's exposing ourselves to positive influences and information and allowing ourselves to explore all of this. And if you're listening right now, you've already started that process, and that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly right. It's yeah, you're on that journey, you're on that process, and keep working with it, and keep making sure that you're around the right people, and you're giving yourselves the right input, and you're not watching the news too much, and you're not kind of like, make the process easier for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love it. That was such a lovely episode. Do you have anything else you want to share, Willow, before we say goodbye?
I think that's it. Thank you again, everyone, for listening, and we're sending you so much love and support at this time. Thank you for being here, and just keep up the great work. You are doing a great job out there. I know you are.
Oh, that's beautiful. And we're trying to put out an episode every week together. So come back and listen to more episodes and share the ones that you really felt moved and that by and resonated with. And so that we can sort of spread these beautiful messages out there to support more and more people. So thank you, Willow, for such another beautiful conversation. And as always, I look forward to our conversation next week. And I hope everybody's taking really good care of yourself out there, and continue to practice the self-love that's going to lead you on some really great paths in life. So sending out love and hugs to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You can take my free sensitivity quiz and find all my HSP tools and resources at sensitiveconnection.com.
To register for the next masterclass on how to make your shift into high sensory intelligence, visit inluminance.com. Please leave us a voice message if you have a question or comment for us to be included in a future episode. Just click the voice message button in the show notes, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and record up to 60 seconds. We love hearing from you.
And please share this episode to help others. And take extra good care of yourself out there. Bye-bye, everybody.